Hey guys, welcome back to the From the Sideline podcast with Francis
and Peter. And today we have another episode, our first episode in a few weeks. But we're really excited to get back at it. We're going to be talking about the Seahawks, then going over the recent trade deadline news, then talking about Russell Wilson and the Pittsburgh Steelers and what's going on over there. Then we're going to finish our NFL talk with our guessing picks game. And then we're going to finish with college football, Heisman watch list, and then we're going to review our preseason predictions. We have two special guests with us on the pod today. We have Tucker Stamstead.
Yep.
And then we have Niko Musavi-Vach.
What's up?
Tucker's been on the podcast before, but it's been a while, and they're really excited to get back at it.
Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you listen to the whole episode and hit the notification bell. Make sure you listen to all the new episodes to come.
I'm excited. Let's go.
Okay, starting off with the Seahawks. Started off 3-0, lost 3 in a row. I saw this stat that said we allowed 11 points per game in the first 3 games, and then I think like 37 in the past 3 games per game, which is absolutely insane. I thought that Mike McDonald would go through the whole defense for the whole year. At the start, there was a lot of hope, but we've played some really formidable opponents. We played the 49ers and the Lions, but that Giants loss was really upsetting. But I don't know, something about our defense right now. Like we've been battling with a lot of injuries on the defensive line, but it's no excuse. I mean, our cornerbacks have not been playing great. Devin Witherspoon has not been playing to the caliber that I expect him to play. Rico One's been out with injury a lot, and I mean, Trey Brown is just not it right now, and Artie Burns is not really a good starting cornerback either. Our offense also hasn't been rolling that well. We need to get momentum early and establish the run game because our offensive line is really, really bad right now. I think we're ranked bottom 5 in the league, and we have like 2 of the worst offensive linemen in the game. And yeah, we just need to be able to establish the run game. Like we have one of the best running backs in the league in Kenneth Walker, but if Geno gets rolling and our offensive line just gives him a little bit of time, I think we should be winning a lot more games. We have a good opponent this week in the Falcons, so we need to bounce back here.
Yeah, as Francis said, we've been dealing with a lot of injuries, especially on that O-line, the right side of the O-line with Stone Forsythe and Anthony Bradford. It's just been absolutely abysmal so far. And it's not even just affecting the pass rush, it's affecting Kenneth Walker and his ability to get going on the ground, which has really hindered us as of late, especially in that game against the New York Giants. We just weren't able to do anything on the ground, and it forced us to go through the air, which really didn't work out for us, and that's part of the reason why we lost that game. But I am still hopeful because we've dealt with a lot of really unfortunate circumstances, like that blocked field goal. That game could have gone to OT. We could have won that game pretty easily. And then the 49ers game, there were a lot of penalties. And we're still dealing with a lot of injuries. I know that DK Metcalf touchdown got called back, but it's not like we're losing games by a ton, and there's a lot of things that could have gone our way, and we could be looking and talking about this season completely differently so far. But we have Byron Murphy coming back this week, and I think that's really beneficial because we're 3-0 with him and 0-3 without him. And that D-line, it's really noticeable because we've been getting run over, especially by Tyron Tracy Jr., Jordan Mason, Isaac Guerrero. We even got like a 70-yard run on us. So we really need him back to make that D-line more formidable, especially against the Atlanta Falcons with Bijan, Tyler Algier, kind of 2 different backs that really throw teams off without good O-line or without good D-lines. But yeah, I am still hopeful, and I think we're going to get this dub this weekend. Rick Wallen's still out, but Artie Burns hasn't been too terrible when he's been playing. Not as bad as Trey Brown.
But Trey Brown's out this week too. So.
Yeah. So I'm happy that he's in there instead of Trey, and I think we're going to be able to get the dub as long as we contain the receivers of Atlanta, who are pretty good, Darnell Mooney and Drake London. As long as we contain them, I think it'll be pretty smooth sledding because Byron Murphy's back.
The Falcons, I do believe, though, like they're a real serious team this year. Kirk Cousins has really started to put it together, and they have a lot of great weapons. Drake London, I know Niko really likes him, and Kyle Pitts, top 5 pick, insane for a tight end, one of the best tight end prospects of all time. They have Darnell Mooney, who's been one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL for a while now, and then of course Bijan. But I mean, I think this Falcons team is a serious contender for the Super Bowl this year. I think they're a top 2 team in the NFC right now, and I think it's them and the Lions. And if we can beat the Falcons, because, I mean, we played great against the Lions, and the 49ers, it was a close game. But if we can beat the Falcons, then I think we're right back in it. So, yeah. All right, Tucker, what do you think about all this?
I think Ryan Grubb's offense has shown a lot of promise. I think there's been some glimpses, but I just think the whole team needs to work as one because I think when the offense is playing well, the defense kind of falls apart and vice versa. So I think if the whole team becomes more consistent, it'll lead to a lot of success down the road for this season. Niko, you got anything else to add?
Yeah, my general problem with the Seahawks right now kind of regards the defense. In the first 3 weeks, I was super hopeful. Mike McDonald being the previous defensive coordinator of the Ravens. I think once Byron Murphy and Tariq Woolen are able to establish themselves aside from getting injured, our defense can be pretty lethal. And I think that showed in the first 3 weeks, obviously 3-0. As soon as Byron Murphy goes and Tariq Woolen, we're 0-3. And I think once we get our defense right, I think we're a contending team.
Next, we're going to be moving on to the trade deadline. A few blockbuster moves have happened this week. The first one, Davante Adams to the New York Jets to be paired with Aaron Rodgers. I think everybody expected that if Adams were to get moved, that this or maybe the Saints, but probably the Jets was the big one that he could get moved to. And I think this is a really, really good move for that Jets offense. Because before we've seen games where Garrett Wilson is the only guy who gets targets. He had 22 targets on that London game.
Jeez.
And then, so it's really important that Rodgers has a guy that he's super familiar with and that he can spread the ball out to. And I think it's going to be really evident that that's what's been missing in these next few weeks when he's playing. And I think this move will make Rodgers way more comfortable back there, and it's going to open up the run game with Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. And I think this is the move that the Jets have been looking for in these past few seasons to really take their offense to the next level. And their defense has not been playing bad by any means. They've played a few juggernauts. They played the Bills, but they have not looked that bad. And obviously they only lost to the Bills by 3 points on Monday Night Football. And Adams, I think they immediately traded for after. And this move really puts them over the hump because you have two arguably top 10 receivers. Garrett Wilson, I think, is a lock in the top 10.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything Peter said. And also, I mean, it's just crazy to me that out of all the elite receivers that Aaron Rodgers has played with, obviously he's elevated their games a lot, like Jordy Nelson and all those great Pack receivers back in the day. Davante Adams, yeah. Davante Adams is by far the best one he's ever played with and has the most receiving yards from him, the most receiving touchdowns. And, Davante Adams and him have an insane chemistry. Aaron Rodgers would just drop it right in the pocket to Davante Adams. It was really sad for me when they split up. But now they're back together with that same chemistry. We'll see if it's still there. But, I mean, this is a great move for the Jets. They've obviously had some offensive struggles. Aaron Rodgers hasn't really been able to gather that momentum yet. I mean, he's a, 4-time MVP? And
two of which in the past 4 seasons.
One of the best quarterbacks of all time, and he's just not been able to. I know he's pretty old now, oldest player in the NFL, but still, you'd expect that he'd be still one of the elite quarterbacks, top 10 quarterbacks, but he has not been playing to that caliber. To his defense, he hasn't really had the weapons that he's needed. Allen Lazard being his wide receiver 2 is not a great wide receiver 2, but Garrett Wilson. They have 2 receivers that are elite wide receiver 1s, which is insane, so their pass game should be exponentially better, and their run game should also carry off of that and be exponentially better with one of the best running backs in the league, not just in fantasy, Breece Hall, and a young rookie who's really great in Braylon Allen. And like Peter said, their defense is really great. I think Sauce Gardner is overrated, but, I mean, he's still one of the best cornerbacks in the game.
He holds too much, but other than that, he's an insanely good
And
corner.
DJ Reed is a really underrated quarterback in the league. The Jets, on paper, should be an easy playoff team, if not. I know they're in a tough division with the Bills, and, the Dolphins aren't great this year, but with just the Bills, I guess. But I think they could really win this division. They're a really elite team on paper, and with Davante Adams getting added to this trade, with this trade, as a easily top 10 receiver in the NFL, I think they should win a lot more games from now on, and I think they go on a little streak here. Moving on to Amari Cooper getting traded from the Browns to the Bills. I don't really know what to say to this because, the Bills and the Jets just played this past week, and, I don't know if this was a reaction to the Jets getting Davante Adams, but the Bills really do need weapons. They have, I don't even really know who the wide receiver 1 is. It's either Khalil Shakir or Keon Coleman, but there's not a clear wide receiver 1 there, and Amari Cooper does bring that, but I mean, definitely for like, for a fantasy perspective, like I don't think that this adds much value to Amari Cooper because there's so many other weapons on the Bills' offense, and they've just been like kind of circulating targets. But from an NFL standpoint, I think this is a great trade for the Bills. I don't know what the Browns like. They're kind of just back to their old ways, but yeah.
I actually disagree with Francis here. I don't think this move really elevates the Bills all too much. They gave up a 6th round pick, or they gave up a 3rd round pick, and they got Amari Cooper in a 6th round pick. And I think this move is actually great for the Browns because they're getting a 3rd round pick out of it. They're losing a 6th. But Amari Cooper and Deshaun Watson was one of the worst connections in the NFL. They could just never find any rhythm. Yeah. So that it really wasn't working out for those two. Still not working out for Watson, but it was not working out for Amari Cooper in Cleveland. So he had to get out of there. But for the Bills, they've changed their offensive scheme so that it doesn't rely on one receiver, as Francis was saying, like Stephon Diggs. We saw at the tail end of last year, and then we're really seeing this year. There's no true wide receiver one there, and they're not even giving it to Kincaid all too much at a high volume. So it's another good player to circulate the ball around to, but I don't think he's going to be some big wide receiver one that a ton of fantasy teams are going to have because that's just not the way they're playing offense this year. But I do think it will help, and it's really good to have that veteran experience because he's been such a good player for so long.
Yeah, like from a real-life standpoint, I do think this elevates the Bills' offense a lot because it's another weapon that the defense has to worry about. And, like, Amari Cooper is a very formidable threat. Like, I still believe has a chance to be a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL if he really wants to. I think his route running is top 3. His hands are really good. He's just kind of old, but, I mean, like Peter said, he's a great veteran presence. But, I mean, they also, like the Jets, they have a really great running back in James Cook. And, I mean, if your pass game isn't elite, then your run game can't be elite. And, I think that's, vice versa as well. So, the Bills, I mean, it's really just Josh Allen carrying this offense right now and kind of James Cook. But I think this will elevate both the pass and the run game a lot more. And this is also great for Mark Cooper because he has Josh Allen throwing him the ball rather than Deshaun Watson, who I think – do you think Deshaun Watson is the worst starting quarterback in the league right now?
I do. And the Browns, there's been some news that came out that Kevin Stefanski isn't the one who's able to make that decision to bench him. And with how bad he's been playing, I think if it was any other player with any other contract, they would totally bench him. They have a really good backup in Jameis Winston. Yeah. If you've watched any Browns game this season, it's just an absolute disgrace. And honestly, I don't understand what's happened to him. He was so good with the Houston Texans. But I think Francis and I can agree he kind of does deserve it.
I remember back when I was in middle school and I would make TikToks. Deshaun Watson, I remember I looked back, and Deshaun Watson was my, I think, 3rd-ranked quarterback in the NFL at the time when he was on the Texans. He was so good. It was insane. I remember his playoff game against the Bills, the wild card game, and it was insane. He was like Russell Wilson 2.0 because he was like a bigger version of him. But his ability to extend plays, I just don't know where that all went. It's kind of hard to root for the guy, but his career kind of just went down the drain. His contract is insane, and I don't know what the Browns are going to do with that. But yeah, they're kind of trapped right now.
Yeah, their owner and their GM are just not going to allow Stefanski to bench him because of that huge investment they put in him, and it really puts the Browns in a difficult spot for the next 2-3 years that he's on that 5-year, $230 million contract. Probably will go down as the worst contract in NFL history if he keeps up this play.
Jamal Adams is also up there for the Seahawks, and I also feel bad for Nick Chubb because he's easily a top 3 running back in the NFL when he's healthy, and he's just been low to the Browns, and the Browns, I feel like they're trying to hold on to him, but they can't create any success. And now their wide receiver one is Jerry Jeudy, and it's just not looking good for the Browns.
So next we're going to be moving on. We're going to be talking about Russell Wilson and Justin Fields and that whole situation over there in Pittsburgh. My opinion is that the Steelers have not been winning games because of Justin Fields. They've been putting up a ton of 17-point games, and their defense has been absolutely outstanding. And Najee Harris is kind of having a bounce-back season. He had a breakout game last week. Well, not breakout because we've seen him be good in the past, but he's kind of having a resurgence, which is really good. And they're kind of playing that old style, Mike Tomlin style football. And I think Russell Wilson will actually improve it because Fields, he hasn't really been adding anything, to be honest. Him and George Pickens haven't really been able to establish a connection, and Pickens hasn't been able to take the next step that we've seen, or that we were all hoping that he was going to before the season. So I think with Russ coming in, we know that his floor is not that low, and that his ceiling is really high because he was so good with the Seattle Seahawks. I think Russ can take their offense to the next level, and if he does, and I think it's a really good decision to take that chance on him, if he does, they become one of the best teams in the NFL because their defense has been playing so good this season. They signed Patrick Queen in the offseason, and they've just been an all-around great defense. They've been holding teams, and they're 4-2 right now. So if they get that first half of 2020 MVP Russell Wilson, which is not likely, but if they do, that team is looking dangerous, especially if he's able to establish a connection with Pickens and the other Pittsburgh receivers.
Yeah, I mean, I think Justin Fields, I really like Justin Fields as a player and a person, but he has a pretty low ceiling, and I think he really passes the eye test. Like, his arm and the way he can throw the ball is like so beautiful, and he's obviously insanely athletic, and his run game is like elite, like top 3 in the NFL, probably top 2. I'd say top 2. It's Lamar and then him probably for rushing quarterbacks, but his ceiling is just so low. As a winning quarterback in the NFL, it's just he's really not gonna cut it for you. I know they're 4-2 right now, but I mean the defense really has been carrying, and I mean the Steelers really don't have great weapons, so it's actually kind of impressive what Justin Fields is doing. But yeah, I think Russell Wilson does have a higher ceiling for sure, but the floor is probably like, I don't even know if the floor is higher, honestly, because if he plays the way he played in Denver, then he honestly might be worse than Justin Fields. But I mean, like Peter said, we've seen the level that Russell Wilson is able to play at, and I mean, I'm really rooting for him that he goes back to like he shows flashes of that same person that he was back in the day, but I genuinely don't think he will. But yeah.
Honestly, I disagree with Francis. I think his floor is actually pretty high. That situation in Denver for the first year especially was just an absolute nightmare for him. Russell Wilson and Sean Payton just do not mesh well together personality-wise, and Payton clearly didn't like him and didn't want him to be the quarterback of the future. And even with that, he improved last year, and we could see him taking steps up, especially at the end of last season. And I think it would be completely wrong to sign a guy like that and not give him a chance. Because the floor is not that low. It's definitely higher than Justin Fields is, and the upside is absolutely tremendous, as I talked about earlier and as Francis talked about. But yeah, the Steelers are in a good position right now because if it doesn't work out for some reason, then they can always go back to Fields.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but I agree that it's his. They should give him a chance because they signed him, and I've been saying that since the start. Like, even if Justin Fields was like 5-1 right now, I still think that Russell Wilson, it's his position to keep, and like no matter how good Justin Fields plays, I think Russell Wilson, when he gets healthy, which is this week, that he deserves the chance to show what he's got. Because I mean, I don't think the floor is the exact same. Like, it's probably a little bit higher with Russell Wilson, so you have to give him a chance, and the ceiling's way higher, but I don't know how much better he's going to do. The weapons aren't very good. I'm really low on Najee Harris. I don't think he's a great NFL running back. He's just really big, but he's kind of slow. And then Jalen Warren. I honestly think Jalen Warren is probably better than Najee Harris, but the George Pickens connection really hasn't been there. I'm not really sure what to think about George Pickens. Like, do you think George Pickens is like a top receiver or?
Yeah, I really do think he has untapped potential because what we saw at Georgia, we saw so many glimpses, and he has a lot of, character concerns. But if they get those in check, I think the sky is the limit for him. He's so skilled. We've seen all of those insane catches he made. That one catch on the first game of last year, or the first week of last year, absolutely insane one-hander. He has so much talent, and if they can just if him and Russ can just establish a dynamic duo, that would mean wonders for the Steelers offense, and that would just propel them to being one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure about one of the best teams in the league, but if I do agree. He has untapped potential for sure. Like, he has insane talent. We've seen insane catches. Like, that catch was maybe top 3 of all time in my opinion. That was an insane catch. But they really don't have many other weapons. Like, they have Pat Frymuth, I guess, but that's kind of it. And I mean, Najee's not really a receiving back. Jalen Warren's not really a good running back. I think their ceiling is honestly like a wild card team. Like, I mean, Mike Tomlin is notorious for just going like just above 500, like 9-8. They're probably going to be. So I think they're going to be a wild card team because their defense is that good. But I'm rooting for Russell, but I generally don't think he's going to lift this team higher than Justin Fields is. So yeah. All right, now we're going to get into our game. I'm not really sure what the score is, but Peter said we're tied.
Yep, we're tied. I think it's 8-8. I'm pretty sure.
We need to calculate this after. But, okay, starting off with my lock, I am taking the Buffalo Bills over the Tennessee Titans. Kind of a basic pick here, but I mean, Titans are just not good. Will Levis is behind Deshaun Watson. He's the worst starting quarterback in the league. Not even in my opinion. That should be objective. But the Titans suck. They have no weapons. Calvin Ridley sucks. Tony Pollard is the only bright spot. And their defense sucks, even though they got a couple of weapons in the offseason. But their defense sucks. And the Bills just got Amari Cooper. Their offense should be better, and their defense should hold the Titans to a pretty low score. So taking the Bills over the Titans.
Yeah, I have a similarly boring pick difference here. The Commanders over the Panthers. Daniels has looked so good. The Commanders are having one of their best starts in years, and the Panthers are just absolutely abysmal. They might not even have Deontay Johnson for this game. So
Really?
Yeah.
Sneaky upset watch, though, low-key.
It's a 9.5-point spread. And
the Commanders are they're due for a fall-off. So
I think they might even cover. I think Daniels is going to keep it up, honestly.
I think they're due for a fall-off soon. I just don't know when. If they don't fall off, then Daniels should win the MVP, in my opinion. But, okay, my underdog is going to be the Texans over the Packers. This is going to be a really good game. There's a lot of good games this week, but the Texans over the Packers. The Texans' offense is lethal. C.J. Stroud, in my opinion, is a top-5 quarterback easily. He just looks so good. And the Packers are they look really good, and they are pretty good, but the Packers are one of my least favorite teams in the NFL, and I don't like them. I think they're going to lose. Jordan Love I don't even know if he's overrated. He's pretty good, but their weapons are just kind of inconsistent. Jaden Reed he's been playing really good, but is he a solid wide receiver one in the NFL? I'm not really sure. They just don't really have elite weapons, and Josh Jacobs has not really been doing it for them. Their defense is all right, but I think the Texans are going to just absolutely blow them out of the water. Who's your underdog?
My underdog is the Steelers over the Jets, the two teams that we were talking about earlier. It's a 2-point spread in favor of the Jets. And honestly, I could definitely see the Jets winning this game, but I think the first game with Russ, they're going to be fired up. I saw Pickens interviewing. He looked really enthusiastic. He said him and Russ are getting work in after practice. And I think if they're going to be able to establish that connection, I think they could really easily win this game. Just getting Devontae Adams doesn't eliminate all of the Jets' woes. And Gardner's been really bad as of late. So, yeah, I think the Steelers have a really good shot at winning this game, but I wouldn't be too surprised if the Jets ended up coming out on top.
Okay, now our spreads. I have the Lions covering the spread over the Vikings. The Vikings are favored by, I think, 1.5. I think the Lions are actually going to win this game, and I don't really think it's going to be close. I think they're going to win by, I don't want to say double digits, but I'm going to say double digits. I think probably by 10 points here. I think the Lions are going to it's going to be a high-scoring game here, and I think it's going to be like 34-24 or something like that, 35-24.
My spread pick is the Ravens over the Buccaneers. Minus 3.5-point spread in favor of Baltimore. Honestly, I kind of think the Bucs are frauds. Godwin had a really good game last week, and they're playing the New Orleans Saints team who just got destroyed by the Denver Broncos. So I think this is going to be a bloodbath. And I think the Ravens are just going to be coming out on top. I think they're going to win by 17, maybe even 20 points. Lamar's looked so good. Coming off that MVP season, he's not in a slump at all. Zay Flowers has started to get going, and King Henry has surprised everybody and has continued to be so great. So I think this could have even been my lock, even though the spread is not that big. So yeah, I think this is a pretty surefire win here for Baltimore.
My underdog is going to be the Seahawks because I just got to put some faith in my boys, and I believe they're going to go out and get the dub versus the Falcons.
Yep.
The Falcons are looking strong, but I think the Seahawks are going to get their stuff together, and we got Byron Murphy coming back, and I think we're going to get our stuff together.
My underdog is the Cardinals over the Chargers. I say this because I think Kyler Murray is having a bit of a better season than Justin Herbert, and they both have some pretty good running backs. The Chargers have a good defense. The Cardinals struggle at defense, but the Cardinals did beat the 49ers this season, and I think they can beat the Chargers.
Yeah, I agree with both those picks.
For the last bit of the episode, we're going to be moving over to college football, and we're going to be talking about the Heisman race so far, and then later on we're going to review our preseason predictions.
Not going great.
But for the Heisman race so far, there's a clear front-runner, Ashton Jeanty from Boise State. We talked about him. It was either the last episode or the one before. But since then, to everyone's surprise, he's kept it up. He's been going off.
Insane.
He had a down game last week where he averaged 8 yards per carry and 200 yards and had 2 touchdowns, and that's a down game for him.
Terrible game.
He's on pace to break Barry Sanders' all-time record, which is 2,600 yards in one college football season, which is less than the NFL season by a few games, which is just absolutely insane. And I think you can mention Travis Hunter, you can mention Cam Ward, but there's no one that comes even close to Jeanty right now. And I think we should all tune into Boise State whenever we can see, because what we're watching right now is special. His ability to evade tackles and his yards after contact is still better than anybody in the Mountain West Conference, which is just absolutely insane.
I agree with Peter, but I think Travis Hunter made a great point himself that we've seen great running backs like Ashton Jeanty before, and I don't think we've ever seen a two-way player like Travis Hunter, and I think he's very special. And I'm not saying that Travis Hunter is playing better than Jeanty right now, but I think Travis Hunter shouldn't be counted out of the Heisman race.
I mean, I agree that Travis Hunter should be counted out from the Heisman race, but even if Ashton Jeanty doesn't keep this up, but he's still for the rest of the season he gets 100 yards a game and 2 touchdowns but 6 yards per carry, he deserves the Heisman. I mean, yeah, we have seen great running backs like Ashton Jeanty before, and he probably I don't know, he's not one of the best running back prospects we've ever seen, but dude, we have not seen a season like this ever. We've seen Barry Sanders, like Peter said, but really, if he keeps up this pace, there's no debate whatsoever that Travis Hunter even has. There should be 0 votes for Travis Hunter. It should be unanimous Heisman to Ashton Jeanty. Yeah, we've seen players like Ashton Jeanty, and we haven't seen players like Travis Hunter. But we kind of have. We've seen Deion Sanders, but still, we haven't seen anybody to his level.
Woodson.
Yeah, Charles Woodson. He's actually really good at both sides. But
He won the Heisman.
yeah, but I mean, Travis Hunter is doing it at not an insanely elite level, and he plays for Colorado. I mean, he's not really on a winning football team. I know the players around him aren't very good, but he has a great quarterback, and he's really not doing much on the offensive side of the ball, and he's doing fine on the defensive side of the ball, but he's not really insanely elite at either one, let alone both. He's saying that he is, and Ashton Jeanty is insane at running the ball, and it's just I've genuinely never seen a college running back as good as he's playing right now.
I agree with Francis. What we're seeing with Jeanty is so special, and I don't understand why Travis Hunter. I get it. It's good to be confident in yourself, but that's just disrespectful to not acknowledge the fact that we've never seen this type of production before. Even though he's at Boise State, he's still been playing a bunch of hard teams. He did this at Oregon too when they played them, who are arguably, not in my opinion, the best team in the country right now. So it's not really a question of competition. So I don't know why Hunter is acting like that. He's obviously a great player, but we know that him playing both sides of the ball isn't sustainable. But this production from Jeanty has proved to be sustainable. So I think he should kind of more focus on Colorado and not criticizing other players who are having a way better season than him.
I actually think Cam Ward deserves the Heisman at this point more than Travis Hunter. Cam Ward has been playing at a phenomenal level, and just in his recent pretty popular interview, he said he's been playing mid, and he's being pretty modest and humble about himself, unlike Travis Hunter, which I really admire. And Cam Ward has been playing at a Heisman level. Any other year, he would be right in the contention. But, Ashton Jeanty's insane. But Cam Ward has been playing at an insanely good level. He looks extremely poised. He looks like an NFL quarterback for Miami, and he's been carrying them to easily lead the ACC currently. And I know the competition has been great in the ACC, but I mean, he has been playing amazing, and he should be the top quarterback in this draft, in my opinion. Carson Beck hasn't really been looking like the number one quarterback, and I never thought he should be. Jalen Milroe kind of fell off a little bit. That Vandy game actually tanked him a lot, and then Shedeur is just way too cocky in my opinion. But Cam Ward is really humble. He plays super poised. His arm talent is really special, and his running game is also really special. And he just has kind of that swagger that you really want from your franchise quarterback. But yeah, it's Ashton Genty. No contest. There's no competition for him right now whatsoever if he keeps this up.
So now we're going to go back to our preseason predictions from September 2nd. We're going to first start with the Big 12. I had Utah winning. Francis had Kansas winning. This has not been very good for both of us. Although the Big 12 is a very weak conference, Utah could still win it. Rising was terrible in that game that he played.
And that was out for the season.
He got re-injured, which honestly helps the Utes at this point. And I think they're still going to make it to the Big 12 championship game, and they could still win the conference. So I don't think that pick was that bad for me. Their defense is always good with Kyle Whittingham teams. For Francis, his Kansas pick, I think, is a different story.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Jalen Daniels, but I mean, he really hasn't been playing to that level. I mean, I feel like it wasn't that much of a hot take. It wasn't that unpopular of a take that Kansas was going to win the Big 12. It's a pretty weak conference, and I don't really like Utah. Oh yeah, Iowa State has looked amazing this year, and their quarterback play has been amazing. Iowa State, in my opinion, is probably going to win the Big 12, and I think they should be the easy front runners right now. But yeah, it's a very weak division right now. You never know. Colorado can still come back at some point, but I don't know.
Yeah, Utah has always kind of started season slow, but they've been able to rebound. But yeah, Kansas State, I'm also worried about. They won the Big 12 2 years ago when they played TCU in the last game of the season when they were undefeated. Also BYU and Iowa State, as Francis said. Texas Tech up to a 5-1 start. So it's going to be an uphill climb for the Utes. But I do think it is possible for them. Kansas sitting at 1-5.
Okay, yeah, they're done.
So
yeah. Just forget about that take.
Kind of a big L for Francis there.
I kind of try to go out on a limb there.
Moving on to the Big Ten.
Yes.
I picked Ohio State. Francis picked Oregon. I'm not ashamed of my pick here, and I think Ohio State is going to get their revenge in the championship, in the Big 12 championship game. We all saw how that game went. It was a great game to watch, and it was super loud. Oregon had a really big home field advantage down at Autzen. So I think when they do play at a neutral site, Ohio State will be reaching their peak form late in the season, and I think they'll be able to get it done because Oregon, it really seems like they're playing their peak football right now, and I think it can only go downhill from here for them. And Ohio State, they still have a lot of room for improvement, especially with that two-headed monster backfield they have with Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. I think there's a lot of room to grow for them.
Honestly, watching that Ohio State-Oregon game, Ohio State probably should have won, but they looked like the better team, and Oregon kind of got bailed out at the end. But I mean, I'm standing strong on my pick. Oregon, this is exactly what I thought was going to happen. Maybe not in this manner, but I thought Oregon was going to win in their matchup. I just think when it comes down to football and when you have two elite teams like this, especially in college football, it really comes down to quarterback play. And Dylan Gabriel, I know he's really old, but that just brings experience. I know he's a lefty, but I honestly shouldn't bring him down that much. I really do like him as a quarterback in college. I don't think he'll be good in the NFL at all, but I do like Dylan Gabriel a lot, and he is by far the better quarterback from these two teams. And then also, I mean, Jordan James hasn't really been playing to the level that I expected him to after seeing him against UW last year. I thought he was incredible, and I thought he was going to be a really bright spot for the offense this year. And he has been, but not to the level that I thought. And they also have Tez Johnson. They have good weapons on their offense. I really just like Oregon's team a lot better, and I don't think Ohio State will be getting their revenge in the Big Ten championship. And I honestly don't even really like their two-headed monster in the backfield that much. I don't even think they're that special. But, dude, Jeremiah Smith is different, though. And he's the best. As a true freshman, being the best receiver by far in the nation is insane. I know Ryan Williams is only 17, so that should give him points. But like Jeremiah Smith is so obviously better. He's better than Marvin Harrison Jr. He's better than any wide receiver I've ever seen in college, and he's only a freshman. That's insane. When he's just like think about how good he's going to be when he's a junior. He's probably going to be. At this point, I would take him over. It depends what quarterback's going to come out when in their class, but he should be by far the number 1 overall pick right now. He's going to be instantly a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL, and he will be the best receiver in the NFL at some point.
Looks like you just convinced yourself that Ohio State is better.
No, that's just one player, though. It's just one player.
I agree with you. If he's this good in the first couple games when he's a true freshman, at Ohio State, wide receiver just imagine how good he's going to be later on in the season and in the years to come. Moving on to the ACC.
Wait, also, look at Denzel Burke. Terrible.
Yeah, he
Terrible.
Has not worked out well. He got absolutely toasted by Evan Stewart,
Yeah.
Tez Johnson, Trayshawn Holden, all 3 of them.
They're just picking on him.
But for the ACC, there's not a lot of time that needs to be spent here. Francis and I both
we
picked
both picked
Miami.
Miami.
They've been a lot of close games. They had a close game with Cal, who is actually very underrated. Jaden Ott is a really good player. But yeah, good teams find a way to win, and Miami has proved that. Cam Ward hasn't even been playing to the best of his ability. Everyone has been kind of shocked, but I feel like Francis and I saw this at his play at Wazoo. He's always been a great quarterback for them, and they're undefeated right now, so they can afford to lose one, and they're definitely going to win the ACC.
He was a stud at Wazoo. And can we talk about how disappointing Florida State's been this season? I feel like this is predictable, but dude, they were top 10 ranked at the start of the season, were they not? And they just kept losing and losing. DJ Uiagalelei is not a good quarterback, and he never will be. I'm sorry to say, like coming out as the number 2 prospect in this class, going to Clemson and just stinking it up at Florida State this year. It's pretty sad to watch.
And then also for Miami, don't forget about Damian Martinez, the Oregon State transfer. That's actually been good.
Oh yeah.
Besides Uiagalelei, who has obviously been horrible. So that's another element that people are sort of overlooking with Miami. But moving on to the SEC, it was kind of a hot take at the time, and it hasn't turned out too great for me picking Ole Miss and Francis picking Georgia. I really thought Dart and I thought their running game was going to be good this year, and they've had so many close games. They got upset by Kentucky, which is obviously not a good loss to have, but in the SEC, anyone can beat anyone at any time. And then they lost to LSU. They barely lost. They really should have won that game in overtime. But I don't think they're a bad team, and I think if a few things could have went their way, we could still be talking about them as maybe a one-loss team or maybe even an undefeated team that could have an easy path to the SEC title game, because Texas could have a loss after this weekend when they play Georgia. And then everyone would have one loss. Georgia losing to Alabama losing to Vandy, and then Texas potentially losing to Georgia. So the SEC cannibalizes itself, and there is always an outside shot that a few of those teams could beat each other, and that Ole Miss could still sneak in there with 2 losses, but the chances are looking slim. But Francis picked Georgia. That's looked a little better for him.
Yeah, Georgia really has a real shot at the SEC still. Texas, like I said before, college football just hasn't looked that strong this year. It's anybody's game, really, for the Natty. There's no clear number 1 here. Texas is ranked first in the nation, but they don't really look like a number 1 overall team in the nation. Is Quinn Ewers out for the season? No. Yeah,
he's coming back this week.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So if when Quinn Ewers comes back, they'll be stronger. Arch Manning is a great quarterback, though. He's going to be great for for Texas in the next year. Quinn Ewers, I genuinely think, I forgot to mention him in the draft class this year, but I would say he's my QB2. I know he's been dealing with a lot of injuries, but just from a quarterback's, from his gameplay, he's just looked, I really like his gameplay. I really like the way he plays, and I would have him right under Cam Ward for this draft class. But yeah, Georgia can easily still win it. They lost to Bama kind of handily, but then Bama lost to Vandy the next week. So it's just college football is just really wonky this year with, and I don't really know how they can rate that. They have Georgia 2 spots over Bama, even though Bama beat them, which is and I know Bama lost to an unranked team, but it's just how do you even decipher who's ranked higher at that point? But yeah, Georgia still looks like a strong team, and it's anybody's game in the SEC, like Peter said. I don't think Texas is going to hold this lead, and Georgia's right there at second place for the SEC title. Bama's also still there. They can easily win. And also, I had Jackson Dart winning the Heisman at the start of the season, but I didn't pick Ole Miss to win the SEC, which is kind of strange for me, but that just really doesn't make sense. But, yeah, Jackson Dart, I mean, he's playing good this season. I think he's the leader in passing yards so far this season, and he looks like a great quarterback. And, I mean, we saw that post-game interview looking like Anakin Skywalker, but I really like that from him, but he's not going to win the Heisman. But I don't think anybody could have predicted that Gen 2 was going to.
No other option.
Yeah.
One more thing I just wanted to touch on. Kalen DeBoer, Francis, Niko, Tucker and I are all wearing suits to his funeral, his downfall. Blowing a 28-point lead to Georgia, who takes the lead over you, and then losing to Vanderbilt. You could not have wished anything better if you're a Husky fan. And we've seen this last year. He just cannot break away from games in a close game with Wazoo, in a close game with Arizona State, in a close game with Arizona, in a close game with Oregon State, in two close games with Oregon, in a close game with Texas. Every single game that we were in was close because he is unable to pull away from games. We saw that in his first year when he lost early in the season to Arizona State. He just can't pull away from bad teams, and he lost to Vanderbilt. So I'm really worried. I think they're going to be coming. Well, I'm not worried, but I think they're going to be coming for his job soon. After this year, especially if they drop another game.
He's done.
Yeah, if they're maybe a first-round exit in the playoffs, or who knows, they don't even make the playoffs at all, because we know that he loves to have close games with bad teams. They're in a close game with South Florida.
Yeah.
And then who did they play last week? They were in a close game with South Carolina as well. They're in a close game with everybody, and that just shows it's Kalen DeBoer and not the roster.
We will not be taking him back here at UW.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure to follow our Instagram, From the Sideline Podcast, and our club Instagram, Sports Journalism SAS. Thank you to our special guests, Tucker, Niko.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening all the way through. Make sure to follow, notification bell, listen to future episodes weekly.
Long episode today, but we'll be back at it soon.
Thank you.